Thanks for staying with us on the conversation. Let's now turn our attention to the east of the continent, where President William Ruto of Kenya is facing criticism from the opposition over his government tax collection efforts. Ruto's administration is investigating over 300 companies for tax evasion, which are connected to powerful individuals from the previous government. Ruto intends to save the country from debt, strengthen the economy, and finance the annual budget.
But the opposition led by Raila Odinga alleges that Ruto is politicizing the campaign by targeting former President Uhuru Kenyatta and his family. Kenyatta's mother, Ngina, has spoken out against Ruto's allegation of tax evasion, while Kenyatta himself has told Ruto to focus on delivering services instead of speaking too much. Raila has stated that the inheritance of property from a deceased person, including former President Kenyatta's inheritance from his father, is exempt from tax since 1982. Now, joining us from Nairobi, Kenya, to make sense of all of this, we have Allan Odero, a political analyst, and Gerald Leparia, a geopolitical analyst. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. So I'd like to start with you, Allan. What are the opposition's primary objectives of President William Ruto's tax collection campaign, and how do they view his strategy and tactics in implementing it?
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be part of the discussion. So, Ruto's pronouncements should be viewed from the background of having inherited an economy that is more or less dilapidated. There was serious economic mismanagement over the last 10 years, which unfortunately Ruto was part of the presidency. Now, this campaign was run on a sound economic management platform. So, further, having assumed the presidency, there appears to be a crisis in terms of matching that political rhetoric during the campaigns and service delivery in terms of how fast can you turn around the economy. The supporters are getting impatient. So the statements about tax evasion, why they are valid, why it's true that there are serious leakages in the tax collection in this country. At this point in time, coming from the sitting president, she's really diversionary. Based on the concept of conservation of powers, we should allow the Kenya Revenue Authority to prosecute any issues, like to follow up on any issues regarding taxation or the tax evasion, and not to be seen to be repeating the mistakes of his predecessor, who was accused of weaponizing the state institutions, the Director of Criminal Intelligence, the KRA, the police, the judiciary, to go after people who are not perceived as being politically loyal. So Raila and the Azimio coalition, desperate for turnaround and rebranding, have seized on the pronouncements in the statement. But be as it may, Ruto realized, I think, the political danger of the statement he made. He's appeared over the last 1 week to go back on his statements, clarifying that one will be targeted, like everyone with disputes or maybe tax arrears will be given sufficient time to check, to clear their records with the Kenya Revenue Authority. So at the moment, the political rhetoric appears to have a little bit died down. And then furthermore, just to excuse William Ruto a little bit, Ruto didn't directly mention the current former president. It's the political, I think I will call them the excitable first-time MPs in this political coalition, who appeared through Twitter outlets and social media outlets to be targeting the former first family. And that pushed the former first lady, the mother of the outgoing president, to make the statement that she made. But as things stand, I think the independent institutions should be allowed to proceed. Although it's a civil matter, they should maybe write demand letters to the various 300 companies or maybe the individual guys. Then they have a discussion. The law also allows for the tax dispute tribunal. It's a series of give and take. So this is where the last administration got it wrong. Rather than allowing for that civil litigation and adjudication, they appear to weaponize the state institution. So this is where people should be cautious not to repeat the mistakes of the previous regime.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Allan. Now, I'd like to bring in Gerald into all of this. I mean, we're hearing nickname as Zacchaeus, the tax collector, given to President Ruto by the opposition. How does this reflect their view of the administration's tax collection efforts so far? Reference of calling Ruto Zacchaeus the tax collector. How does it reflect the view of the administration's tax collection efforts? What has actually been the greatest discontent with Ruto's tax collection efforts? Okay, Gerald, we'll get back to you once we have that sorted out. But I'd like to bring in Allan into all of this. Now, earlier on, you talked about this tax collection efforts by William Ruto and how it's going so far between William Ruto and Raila Odinga. Now, how many companies and individuals have been investigated, or rather are being investigated by President Ruto's administration for tax evasion? How exactly is he going about it?
Thank you. So far as per media report, 300 companies in the country have been flagged down for tax evasion over the past few years. So these are things that didn't begin with the administration of Ruto since August last year. These are things that are deep-seated issues. They go back way years back. There are instances of where those who received what can be cited as unfair tax waivers, merger of banks, merger of corporations, and then the individual high net income individuals across the country. So at the moment, we can only speculate on the identity of the companies. They haven't really been fully identified, and of the individuals based on the political posturing. Yeah, we should be careful in terms of that his information is going to use to bring more people, to put these people to justice, the so-called tax evaders, because some of these people have serious political capital. They could easily go on a tangent and kind of make it a little bit difficult to have a smooth running of the government in terms of political diversions and distractions and all that. So far, Ruto has been back to the moniker of the tax collector. It's a public disillusionment with the campaign pledges. Ruto ran on a platform of making the economic burden lighter. There were political statements to the effect that after just being sworn in, the price of maize meal would drop of from what it was over 100, almost 200 shillings to 70 shillings a kg. So people are right now asking him that it's now a month since you took the oath of office. And instead of the cost of living going lower, we've seen an increase in the prices of fuel, increases in the prices of electricity charges. So by people calling him, and then the last 2 weeks, the charges on the water bills. So people have like telling the tax collector like a criticism of there's no limit to which the administration want to go to mop up more resources. They're putting on a position where they believe that there's more money out there. But objectively looking at it, I think we have more of a not entirely a revenue problem, but an expenditure problem. Because previously it's been alleged by even our former president who alleged that around 600 billion shillings per year, that's equal to a third of our budget, is lost to corruption. So it's more like budgeted corruption. So moving forward, our institutions they don't really need to push Kenyans too hard in terms of being people like squeezing money out of a rock, I would say so, but rather sound economic management. Seal the leakages, the loopholes in terms of corruption and theft of public funds, the country will be on a good footing. Thank you.
Now, Allan, staying with you, Allan, what is the general sentiment among ordinary Kenyans? What's the reaction to this new tax and revenue mobilization drive by the Kenya Revenue Authority? What's the general sentiment? And also, what other options are available to President Ruto to shore up the country's finances? Since he's said that, instead of going to court, just pay up your taxes.
Thank you very much. So right now, there's a serious opinion is torn down the middle divide. The hustler nation, masses who propped up Ruto's campaign, buy into that idea that they are so-called dynasties. They are the high-net individuals who've been cheating the country. They've been riding on the backs of the ordinary Kenyans who are paying taxes. That it's true. They need to pay up and pay up. Like, let's go back in history. Let's mop up all that they evaded. Then on the other hand, there's another population that is also part of Ruto's support with the ordinary Kenyans.
Allan?
Too soon, people are growing impatient, yeah?
Go on, please.
Growing impatient. So, in terms of that which is that Ruto has right now, it's true, we don't really need to make this. The constituent tax issues are basically a civil matter. Based on KRA, I think we proceed and send demand letters to the individuals who have been flagged down. then they can negotiate based on it will be about establishing how valid are the allegations. Right? There's a concurrence, then they can agree on a repayment formula. It doesn't necessarily need to be a back and forth like we saw with what we have been told, who have been called negative sanctions, and then being so vindictive as the last administration took the process. Then on to what Ruto can do right now. It's true that the country is in a dire economic straits. We are under a serious, we are strained in terms of servicing the public debts. Out of 10 shillings that we collect, it says that around 5.8, around 6 shillings goes into servicing the debt. So we are left with barely any, we're barely left with the amount to maybe the current expenditure. And back to the shocks of the shocks of the 80s, the circular adjustment programs really. Even right now, the IMF and the World Bank are closely working with our treasury and our central bank. So more austerity is on the way. Ruto suggested to the treasury to at least save 300 billion shillings in our budget, which has been done, to cut down on the expenditure by 300 billion. So this is just the first financial year. So incrementally, it's going to be painful in the long run in terms of what austerity does to people, in terms of cutting back on the social and essential services, raise taxation, then at one point in time, probably entrenchment of people. But I think that's the painful. They sound painful at the moment, but in the long run, they'll probably make sense to the Kenyan people.
Okay, so Allan, from all what you're saying, I mean, William Ruto came in to revive the economy, but the hustlers are still hustling, so to say, and the cost of living is still on the high side. And we're still having the Raila Odinga, the other, and still having complaints about the legitimacy of President William Ruto and saying that the elections were not free and fair. How has this affected the popularity of President Ruto and the sentiments of Raila Odinga? How is it playing out in the political space so far?
I would say that Raila's statement basically, it shocked the country that a week before he made these statements, he stepped up the ante after the so-called whistleblower leakage by some groups that are claimed to have had insights into what happened at the IEBC. Before that, the week before he went to the 2-week trip to South Africa, the EU summit, they had appeared to be kind of a detente between him and William Ruto. William Ruto too had an extensive and well-received of the Raila's political base in the Nyanza region. The MPs in that region and Raila's political party received Ruto so well, the governors. So the country was shocked when on arrival he stepped up on that. So I would call it just political posturing, because in as much as you can't claim that right now you dispute Ruto's.
All right, Allan. Okay, from all you're saying, still matter of political statements going on. Unfortunately, we'll have to draw the curtains here. We're still putting our fingers close to Kenya, especially its economy and how the political space is running so far under the leadership of President William Ruto. Thank you so much, Allan Odero, political analyst, for joining us on this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
And this is where we drop the anchor on today's program. In the first half of the program, we did look at the Supreme Court of Nigeria telling the Central Bank of Nigeria to postpone its deadline on the issuance of new currencies. And we just finished our conversation on the political situation in Kenya when the opposition is accusing President William Ruto of politicizing his new tax regime. And Gbenga Aborowa, thank you very much for being a part of the conversation.
I'm Rita Omodia. See you again on Friday.
Bye-bye.